Boatbuilding News, the podcast. Let's do it. Welcome to Boatbuilding News, the podcast, a series of engaging interviews with key individuals from within the marine industry. I'm excited. This is going to be epic. I am so excited to welcome Nicky Vaux to the Boatbuilding News podcast. I'm going to say morning, but I guess it's evening for you.
It sure is. It's 8 o'clock in the evening, so I've had a big day at work and I'm here for you.
We were just joking off air that it's completely reasonable for Nicky to do this podcast with a glass of wine in her hand.
I should have thought of that. Yeah, I should have done that.
I know. Well, if you'd have told me in advance, I did say that maybe just out of politeness, I'd have to have joined you.
To get into Australian time. That's what I say.
Yeah, 100%. So, Nicky, tell us who you are and what it is that you do in the industry.
I am known in the industry as the Boat Princess,
which, by the way, is a top tier name.
Thank you.
I wish I thought of it.
It is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Especially when you walk in somewhere now and they say, "Oh, the Boat Princess," instead of my name. It's quite funny now. So yeah, it's good. But on the serious side, I and the name, I do take the mick out of myself a bit. So it stems from my hubby calls me Princess, but my first big motor yacht was a Princess too. So that's where the name came from.
Sort of reason.
Yeah. So, but it's also beautifully catchy and people remember it. So that's good. But I am, in all seriousness, very heavily involved in the boating industry. I am the co-owner and BDM at Empire Marinas Group, which is two of the largest marinas in New South Wales and Australia, 200 berth and 250 berth consecutively. And they're full service marinas too, full hard stand operations, tenants. I even run one of the restaurants in one of those as well. Wow. So big operations and very highly awarded operations too, which we're very proud of. And amazing locations, incredible locations. So Empire Marina Bobbin Head is in a national park, just 35 minutes drive out of Sydney. So not very far from the hustle and bustle of Sydney, but you feel like you've gone into the middle of nowhere. It's quite incredible.
Oh, wow.
And then the other one is on Lake Macquarie, which is a massive, massive waterway in New South Wales, which is amazing for boating. And so that's a beautiful location as well. So that's my main role. And then, of course, we're the first franchisee of Freedom Boat Club in Australia.
Oh, really? So I didn't realise that.
Yeah. So we've got 3 clubs, one at Bobbin Head, one at Lake Macquarie, and one at Pittwater. So awesome. I purchased 10 boats last year.
As you do.
For that, which is very exciting because it brings boating to so many more people, which is, I guess, one of our absolute core things that we wish to do as Empire. So that's really cool. And then, of course, I've got the Boat Princess, which is my Instagram presence and my podcast, which is incredibly popular, and I get to speak to the most, like you, I get to speak to some incredible people in our industry and amazing sailors and wonderful, wonderful people that I learn so much from and thoroughly enjoy meeting and spending time with. So that's my education side as well. I love to share my knowledge of boats and boating and give a bit back to the world, because it's a bit surreal what we do, isn't it? So
oh my goodness, absolutely. But everything you've just mentioned, all I'm sat here thinking is, how are you fitting all of that in? Are you like superhuman? That is a lot.
I am slightly crazy in terms of always wanting to do the next thing, right? Like entrepreneurs are. We're very okay, what's the next thing?
What's next?
But I have amazing teams, incredible people I'm surrounded by that do their jobs well, and thankfully that allows me to do what I do. I have people with the talents that they have, and I rely on those talents to allow me to do all I do.
Awesome. So right back at the beginning, how young were you? You know, at what point did you enter the boating world, or is it something that's always been in your life?
Look, I sailed as a kid with my dad, and we spent our holidays on, you would know, Brownsea Island in Poole Harbour in the UK.
Yeah.
So I boated a lot there, and so I've always had that love of boating and boats specifically. I genuinely adore boats.
It's always been there.
Yeah, but we didn't actually get into the boating industry until I was in my, I must have been in my late 30s, and I didn't get into it until I remember when I got into it, Holly, because I didn't drink until I was 43, and that's when I started selling boats, and I had to start drinking.
You didn't drink until you were 43? Well, you just... What? I can't. We're gonna have to focus on this a little bit. Did you party? Did you just party sober? I need to know this.
Yeah, I just party sober. As you can see, I'm quite a bubbly, energetic person anyway. So I actually didn't enjoy drinking. I didn't like it. So yeah,
how
but somebody
fortunate.
gave me...
I wish I was more like that.
I know, right? Saved me a heap of money at uni.
I know. Oh my God. Well, you did uni and you didn't succumb to any sort of drinking games or...
No.
Incredible. No. Okay.
None of it.
That's amazed me.
Yeah. So, but you know, if you don't like it, you don't like it, right?
No.
Yeah.
But the boating world tipped you over the edge.
Well, I must confess, it was actually a girlfriend's 50th where she served the most exquisite champagne. And I said, oh, okay, I've been doing it wrong. You've got
expensive taste, clearly. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So your first role in the boating industry, quite late on then, it wasn't a natural progression of you grew up around boats and your first working role naturally was in the marine industry. You did something else before that.
Yeah, I was trained in 5-star hotels, high end hospitality.
Still luxury kind of space then.
Yeah. I did a degree in hospitality management, and I did my training at the Ritz and Grosvenor House in London.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was very lucky to get right in at the top, right at the start.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that is really cool. So why switch to the marine industry? Why not continue? You know, you're at the top. You were training at the Ritz. What made you move away from that?
Well, we had children, and I tried to dedicate. We had a little holiday houses that I managed and things like that when they were small.
Okay.
And then my husband and his business partner decided it would be a good idea to purchase a marina.
Okay.
So we did, and so my career in the boating world has come around very differently to many others.
Yeah.
Because I literally put my hand up and said, kids are at school, any chance I can do something there, because I'd like to do something more than I'm doing now, because I am that.
Yeah.
I do lots more person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the boat broker at our marina was just about to leave, because it was 2010, 11, so that GFC time. So it was a bit tough. And he said, I'm going to leave the marina. And we said, oh, don't do that, because you're a good one. So how about we bring you into the marina business? So we did that, but he needed support. So I just went in to help him. Okay. Just on a commission basis. And so therefore I didn't earn anything unless I sold a boat. Yeah. And he and I sold 300 plus boats over 5 years. So it was a real steep learning curve for me, because I knew boats, but I didn't know them to that level of detail. But I think if you continuously learn, which is what I was doing, I was continuously learning and just climbing all over boats and learning everything about them and asking everybody around me, what does this mean? And what's that? And why is this like here? And all that sort of thing, which as a woman, we kind of get away with it a bit more.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think there's an element of you've got to be quite comfortable not knowing, not being the expert in the room to begin with, because you'll never become an expert if you're not comfortable asking and not comfortable with saying, you know more than me, tell me. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly right. So I'd say to the mechanics when the survey report came in, what does this mean? And he'd explain it to me in detail so I could then explain it back to the client or negotiate it or understand how much it was going to cost to fix it and therefore negotiate that. And so the process continued.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, also as well, I suppose you've got that kind of personality for sales. Do you know what I mean? You've got to have that people person about you a little bit, a little bit bubbly, a bit energetic. You've got to be likable. So everything about that, the fact it was boats, the fact it satisfied your sort of thirst for knowledge, and your natural personality is probably the perfect recipe for that role.
Well, thanks for the compliments. That was lovely. But yeah, I guess I was in sales because in hotels I was in conference and banquet management. So I was in organising events, but also selling those events, selling that space.
Right. Okay. So you'd had that experience as well.
Yeah. So I put that with that. So you've got 5-star service, sales ability, and then add on the knowledge of boats and created Empire Boat Sales. And it was so much fun, very emotional, quite selling boats. It's very because I really took it on board that I wanted to get the right boat for the right person and all those sorts of things, so but really, really good. And once I started being taken seriously, because that took a little while, got to admit, that female in that space, it was amazing. Yeah, it was really good. And so then years, I'd done that for quite some time, and I felt like I needed a change. And I actually did a personal branding course with an amazing woman here called Carly Lyon. And she, in that course, I realized I have a lot of knowledge to share and a lot of things I can make women in particular feel more comfortable about boats, more comfortable about coming into the boating industry, because we speak a different language. We've got these funny words for everything, and so I realized in that course, okay, I can do something with this, and that's how the Boat Princess came about.
Oh, really? So it's very much sort of an advocate for women in the industry, females in the industry. That's the kind of purpose of the Boat Princess. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all about, I guess, putting myself out there to show this as an industry is a good place to be. Also giving women knowledge and making them feel comfortable about coming into the industry. I'm a huge connector. I love it when somebody sends me a DM, says, I need some uniform for my crew. Who should I go to? And I'll say, oh, that will be that. And they come back, awesome. So I love putting businesses and contacts together that should know each other in our industry, because I have a massive network in this industry worldwide. Yeah. So I love putting people together and making them know each other, which expands their worlds together. So they both grow because they've met each other. I love that whole, in fact, it's my motto: a rising tide lifts all boats. That
but
we all help each other.
An incredible recruiter, by the way. Ever fancy it? Because that's
really should. Yeah.
Essentially, my background in recruitment, it is exactly that. It's just networking, but for people's careers' benefit. We are just joining the dots and putting people in touch and facilitating those conversations. So it's everything you said. I mean, it's just if you're somebody that enjoys networking, I mean, how valuable is it to have such a big network? I was talking to somebody only yesterday who said that he thinks that his network, he described it as 2 degrees of separation, that he thinks that within 1 or 2 phone calls, he could get to the person he needs to by using his network. And that's exactly that, isn't it? And he said, the ultimate is to be 1 degree of separation, because you want to be able to just pick the phone up and get exactly who you need. But it's powerful, isn't it? And it makes you such a valuable person in the industry, because especially if you're using it for the good of everyone and for the good of, like you say, raising everybody up, it's a great tool.
Yeah, no, we're really blessed. We've through our ICOMIA connections and our BIA connections, MIA connections, because I'm a director on the MIA as well.
Just in your spare time. Just like that. That as well. I'm just doing that.
So that has brought me connections all around the world. And yourself, the people in the boating industry there are some absolute diamonds, and there's some amazing, warm, fantastic people that I genuinely call friends all over the world who are in our industry. So, yeah. I mean, we're so blessed in that regard to have that network.
I know, but yeah, I think sometimes I'm biased, but God, it's like we have to be the friendliest industry, surely, the most sociable, the most fun. And sometimes I think, am I biased when I say that? Because I don't know, I live, breathe, and love it. Maybe I'd feel the same if I worked somewhere else, but for now, I'm sticking by my views on that.
Exactly right. Yeah. And I mean, we do have to stick with the good ones, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think as an industry, we come together. When we go to Met's Trade, perfect example. We have such an amazing time, and and we're hugging, and it's just fabulous, and we're very, very lucky to have that in this industry. I think
we are, definitely. So, I mean, we touched a little bit on females working in this industry. So, the facts speak for themselves, right? It's a male-dominated industry. However, it's not unique in that. There's a lot of industries out there that are male-dominated. But what's your experience, either positive, negative, barriers, challenges of being a female in this industry?
Look, there's lots of different parts to it. And I do a presentation to conferences, and I talk about, and I think this is where we need to get to, that we're humans that just happen to be female.
I love that. Yeah.
And so I think we need to get to the space where we're not judged because we're a woman. We're judged because we've got this skill, that talent, that education, that knowledge, this energy, this managerial skill, whatever it is. And we're bringing that to the table. I think that's what we need to focus on. And as an industry, we're not only just male-centric, we're also culturally white.
Yeah.
So we need to work on that as well. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, and I apologise to anybody if I've offended anybody in saying it not the right way, but we need to focus on diversity overall,
in general,
in our industry, because there's and there's gender in it too. We need to work on gender as all forms of gender. So diversity is a real issue for our industry and something we need to work on. But we're working on it. There's ICOMIA ourselves. I'm now in my spare time joining a committee on ICOMIA for that purpose, to try and increase diversity within our industry. So, and I did a presentation at the end of last year to that effect with the BIA. We did a fabulous event, actually. It was a presentation on diversity in the industry and what we can do to improve it and so on and so forth. And then we did a fashion show afterwards, but it was inside a boat stack. Okay. So 200 boats around us, sort of thing, and all on the stacker in a big shed, and the fashion show going down the middle of it. So
what was the style of the fashion show? What was the theme?
Well, we actually used three completely different styles, but for different parts of our industry. So there was quality marine clothing doing all the sailing gear and the crew gear and stuff like that. There was My Paloma doing the most beautiful resort wear for when you're out
wow.
on the super yacht or the beside the pool in the resort. And
Love it.
then there was Sarah Lloyd, who does beautiful tailored jackets and shirts. And so for those of us that are working in the managerial space or sales space or whatever, so we
What a unique event.
yeah, it was really, really good fun. And again, brought the industry together, networking, talking to each other, saying, "Oh, I didn't know you did that," and suddenly all helping each other again, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, like you say, you know, it's a male dominated industry. It's not as diverse as we'd like to be. But in the short space of time, the relatively short space of time I've been working in the industry, I think there is attempts. You can see the discussions going on, the events that are happening, the panel discussions, that we're trying. Do you know what I mean? And it's not something that gets, you just, you know, you decide you want change and it's changed overnight. This is a generational thing that needs to be an ongoing process for a number of years, decades, you know, an ongoing, never needs to end. So there's definitely the will and the desire to increase the diversity. But it's not a quick thing, is it? It's not a quick fix. It's just impossible to fix overnight.
Yeah, but people like you putting yourself out there, me putting myself out there, that allows women to see who they can be. So
Yes.
that, I think that's really important, that people like you, Marcella, you know, all the people that are very visual, socially and in the industry, and presenting at conferences and being at boat shows, doing presentations. Michelle Goldsmith's wonderful events she does
Yeah, she does great events.
at Met's Trade, Miami Boat Show. She's doing another one for women. It's just, you know, those sorts of things that if we're all doing all those things, then we suddenly create a momentum
Yeah.
and a visual sort of representation that, hey,
Yeah. And I think if we're all doing those things together, you know, so you mentioned us as individuals then, but actually that's, you know, a team is always way more powerful, way more successful together when they're working together. So us as a collective doing what we do in our own spaces, but also coming together and doing what we do together is so powerful, and it can really be the change. You know, I mean, if I look, you know, I mentioned before we started recording that I've got 3 daughters, and I look at them. I mean, whether they'll go into the marine industry, I don't know, but I'd like to think that they would have the same opportunity and the same barriers in front of them if they were 3 girls wanting to go into the marine industry or 3 boys. You know, I would just like to think that, you know, it's the same level of challenges they would face, and they wouldn't face additional barriers in their way purely because they happen to be female. And that's the thing.
You know, you're leading the way for them. So, I mean, that's
I
amazing.
might be putting them off.
No, I don't think so. You've got too much passion for it, Holly. You know, you've got such
I
a
think if my kids see
drive
another
for
boat.
No, you're showing them it's fun. You're showing them it's amazing. That's brilliant. You can't do anything better than that for your daughters.
Yeah, I mean, I just, you know, it's I suppose if you look at it in comparison to female sports, so female football in general. So when I was their age, I was a footballer.
Yeah.
I stopped playing football. I wanted to be a football coach, and I stopped because I couldn't see any females in that position. There was no opportunities. I look at them now; they're also footballers. It doesn't even cross their minds that they couldn't be either a professional footballer or a professional football coach if they wanted to be. At no point does it cross their mind that that's not for them. So even in that short one generation, the change is there. In hopefully that's replicated across things like the marine industry, because it's everywhere else. Where the world in general, you know, the perception of young girls and the barriers they see is changing, which is fantastic.
Have you seen the series Wrexham?
No, I don't think I have. No.
What's interesting is it talks about football, because women used to play football, and then it was stopped because they were so popular. So The full story of that is in the series of is
Oh,
in
is
one
it?
of
I
the
might look
episodes
that
of
up.
Hexton.
I
Yeah.
don't
So
watch a massive amount of TV, but I do pick and choose a few things. But I might look that up because I think that would be something
yeah,
I'd be interested in. It's a great
yeah,
recommendation.
yeah. It's a really good because they go into little stories all the way through, and that was one of them that really stood out to me. Was whoa, that's okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So you don't strike me as somebody that's phased by problems or challenges or anything like that. But I mean, obviously, everyone has those moments where they go, "Ah, that hasn't worked out how I wanted it to," or that's keeping me up at night. What major challenges have you faced along the way?
Um, there's been plenty. But as you say, I love to, the old good old COVID word pivot, or just say, okay, that's not working. I always say you got to fail fast, right? So if you do something that isn't working, you say, okay, it's not working. I'm switching it up. I think the biggest challenge for me was because I was the wife that came into the business.
Right.
I had
Okay.
a hard time getting people to take me seriously.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. I get it.
yeah, so that was a big challenge for me, which I basically just had to keep working, learning, persevering, and dealing with until it stopped.
Right.
Yeah, so that was the biggest challenge for me. Um, there was things like we tried to do a classic boat share at one stage, which was, how we have boat shares,
Hmm.
normal boat shares. We tried to do it with classic boats, but of course the cost of running a classic boat is really expensive. So
Yeah.
when you actually tried to explain that to people on the monthly fee, they were like, no, that's way too much. But, well, that's the reality. But so that didn't work at all. So we ditched that real quick. And so there's been things we've tried and things we've done differently and all that sort of thing on the way through. But I think you've just got to persevere, and you've just got to look at it and say, it's not working. I've got to do it differently.
Yeah. I quite
And
like the notion of failing fast.
yeah,
Not dwelling on something or square peg round hole. Recognize it and move on.
yeah, yeah, and just do something different.
Love
Yeah.
that. So, what does this year look like? Talk to me about the shows. We all love a boat show. What have you got coming up?
My next one is Miami, which I'm
Oh
very
wow! I mean,
excited about because I've
yeah,
never been there.
I've never been to Miami Boat Show. I've never been to Miami.
Never been to Miami, never been to Miami Boat Show.
I've never been to Miami Boat Show. I did Fort Lauderdale in October. Wow, is all I can say.
Okay.
Like, blew my mind. It took everything I thought I knew about the industry and it 10x'd it.
There you go. Yeah, Miami's supposed to be, well, it's the biggest boat show in the world, I think. So it's massive, and it's got different locations, and so I'm really excited to go to that. I've got
What's the purpose of going there? What are you hoping to gain out of that?
there are some amazing people going that I'm catching up with, which,
Okay.
that's one of the nicest things we do. And I'm going to Michelle Goldsmith's event, because obviously I was on her panel at Met's Trade.
Yeah.
So I'm going there to support her and catching up with her, and seeing those amazing women on the stage do their thing, which is quite incredible because she's got another 3 amazing women from our industry talking. So that's really exciting. But just to see a US boat show, because I've never seen a US boat show. So
I can't wait to
really
catch up with
excited
you
for that.
afterwards about this. What you think?
I know. And then I do actually come back to the UK afterwards for a few weeks as well. So
How do
and
you?
I'm going across to the Freedom Boat Club Forum almost straight after Miami. So that's a big forum for all of the owners of Freedom Boat Clubs, because there's 400 Freedom Boat Clubs around the world. So we all come together for that event, and that's the first one of that for me as well. So that's a big couple of things in February and March.
That's just
Um,
February and March. Do you know what
that's
I
just
mean?
February and March.
Do you know the opportunities this industry provides us though, because like you live in the dream, you know, you're traveling, you're doing what you love, you're seeing incredible places, you're seeing incredible boats, you're meeting with incredible people, and the industry that we work in has provided those opportunities, which is just incredible.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, to interview a whole bunch of amazing people over there, because there are some incredible people in the US. And I love the whole US. You know, we suffer a bit of from tall poppy in Australia. It's not so much like that there. So I really love that energy of everybody should be, you know, doing really well, you know? So that's really exciting to go to as well.
I mean, that's one of the things I noticed when I went over there, and not just in the marine industry, just in general, being in Florida. You walk along the street and you smile at somebody, they smile back with incredible energy, and they say, "Good morning, I hope you have a great day." And I didn't feel that in the UK sometimes. If I did that, if I smiled at somebody, they'd think she's insane. I know, and everyone was everyone's supporter. Everyone wanted everyone to do well. Everyone was bigging each other up, and it's just an energy that I can't describe, that is just addictive. I want more of it, and you know, I absolutely adore it out there.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that. I've got ICOMIA Congress with my husband, because my husband is the president of ICOMIA. So that makes me first lady, right?
Right, obviously. Naturally. If you were first lady / princess. Get the girl a crown.
Exactly. Yeah. Somebody said to me the other day, "So which is the most important, first lady or boat princess?" I don't know. Very funny. So ICOMIA Congress in France in May. So that will be really, really good. And then I've got, what am I doing next? Oh, of course, Sydney Boat Show in August. And of course, Met's Trade in November. I'm sure there'll be a lot more added to all of that, but
I can imagine there might be.
Yeah. So that's my year ahead, as well as, you know, running a couple of marinas. And well, I don't run the marinas. My amazing managers run the marinas, and just being part of this wonderful world that we're in, and again interviewing so many incredible people on my podcast, which is really exciting.
Awesome. I mean, there's me thinking, wow, what a year, like, you're so lucky. And then I realized I get to do all that too. I know, it is like, I do need to sometimes stop and think, actually, like, what we're doing is, because it can become the norm a little bit, and I've got to remember it's not actually the norm, really. But also I think in the same respect, you know, I hold my hands up. I am absolutely guilty of this, of sharing all these incredible videos and clips, and, you know, across social media, and everyone thinking I'm having the time of my life. But I always put it out there. It's also, sometimes you don't see it. It's incredibly hard. It's incredibly tiring. It's not always what we share as our highlight reel on social media. So as much as we are really, really lucky, there's also another layer that I think that people don't always see, of where we also work really hard.
Yes.
And it's not always that glamorous.
Yeah. No. You know, sometimes you're in a bilge of a boat and you're going, this isn't very glamorous down here. But hey, I'm or standing in my hard stand covered in anti-foul, you know, just, I'm not actually a covered, but do you know what I mean? I'm in an industrial environment sometimes. But as I said, I have amazing teams doing all that. And it's, and you know, even you get thrown into the restaurant sometimes because somebody hasn't turned up. So I'm therefore carrying plates around, you know, so or in the wash up or whatever it is. But that's part of being a leader, though. I saw the wonderful Kelly Gordon, you know, the fabulous Kelly Gordon, super yacht captain. She posted the other day, part of being a leader is mucking in and doing what's needed when the one person doesn't show up or something happens, or you've got to be the one that solves the problem. You've got to be the one that solves the pain points of everybody. So that is part of leadership. We do step in and do whatever needs to be done, sort of thing.
Exactly that. And quite often, you know, I always try and think to myself, there's a real difference in being a manager and being a leader. Do you know what I mean? There is a different vibe. You know, a manager, sit back, tell everyone what to do, they do it. A leader, gets involved, like you say, mucks in, shows them, helps them, is part of that team doing the doing,
Yeah.
And that's so important. I mean, I adore leadership. I lead teams, in Boatbuilding News, but also in my recruitment business as well. You either love it or you don't, and
Yeah. So and of course I'll be doing lots of fabulous. We do networking events at boat shows and all that sort of thing, and so I'm really looking forward to doing all those. And because I'm a real people lover, so I
my
get to
goodness,
see
I can
everybody
tell.
again, hug everybody again, and all that.
COVID must have been hard for you then. It must be like,
Oh,
stop
it's
hugging
horrific.
everyone.
I hated COVID for the fact that I couldn't hug people. It was
I
I'm
know.
a real hugger, so it was really, really hard for me not to be able to hug people.
Yeah, it was a really funny time because you're absolutely right. We are such a social industry, so I think for our industry, it hit us really hard in that sense, didn't it?
It really did. When we got back to the first boat show, I'm sure you were the same. When you got back to your first boat show after COVID, it was like, wow, thank goodness we're all back again,
Mm. But then it was a bit awkward because I was like, do we hug? Are we? Is hugging over for good? Can we hug? I don't know.
No.
Is hugging now extinct? Keep the hugging alive.
I have a theory that hugging is actually safer than shaking hands. I reckon it's safer. But hey,
you're
that's
probably
just
right.
me.
Dread to think when I'm thinking about that. Yeah. So over the last few years, over the last whole career, what's your standout? What times do you sit back and you just think, oh my gosh, I loved doing that, or I can't believe we've achieved that, but we have. And what are those times that you look back now and you just beam with happiness?
Okay, quite a few again. But I guess I've had some amazing opportunities as the boat princess. For example, I was on Comanche on I think it was March of last year, with Ian Murray at the helm. I mean, that was mind blowing for me because he is such an incredible guy and so talented. He's incredibly humble, by the way, as well. But Comanche is, Sydney Hobart winner, blah blah blah, but massive 100-foot boat, and I actually got to hold the helm for 5 minutes, if that. And so that's a real mind blowing moment. Interviewing the sort of people I get to interview: Shirley Robertson, multi-gold medalist sailor. Kay Cotty, the first woman to sail around the world by herself.
I listened to that episode this morning.
She's a friend, so she's an amazing woman, and we literally sat in her back garden and did those 3 episodes. Just chat. It was wonderful. So I guess the people I get to meet and interact with is real wow for me. Empire Marina Bobbin Head was the first platinum 5 gold anchor marina in Australia.
Awesome.
And that was a massive achievement and ceremony because that's really hard to achieve. Then I guess Freedom Boat Club coming to us and saying, we want you to be the first Freedom Boat Club in Australia. That's pretty big.
That's cool. Yeah, and I didn't realise that until you said earlier, which is that is massive.
Yeah, that's so that is massive. What else? I think it's just, when you're walking down this happens to you as well, I'm sure. When you're walking down the street and somebody comes to you, so obviously at boat shows it happens more, but you're walking down boat shows and somebody comes up to you and says, "Oh, I love your podcast." Do you love that? It's quite because they're a complete random. You don't know them, and they're listening to your podcast, and that is such a thrill that the stories that you're gathering from the people you're interviewing are getting out there to the whole world, and so many people are
it's weird, but what's quite amusing when that happens is the look of sheer horror on my children's faces. They're absolutely mortified. And they're like, "Are you the girl that posts about yachts?" And they honestly, they just look as if the ground could swallow them up. And I'm like, what is so embarrassing about this, kids? Like, what is going on? And to them it's cringe.
My boys
to
are
me,
too old
what blows my mind.
Me, so. But that's a real thrill, and little things like that. I get DMs on Instagram saying, "I've just done my boat license, or I've just bought my first boat, and that's just, I mean, that gives me the biggest thrill.
Yeah, I love that.
And
Back
then
to
the
basics, actually, just the
networking
small
events I
stuff,
hold,
isn't it? Sometimes.
Yeah, it really is. It's lovely that they feel comfortable and supported by you, and they can send you that message, and that's a really nice thing that we're privileged to have that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, coming to the end of the podcast, the question that I always say that I spring this on people, but I mean, I do. This is the only question that I give people a heads up on, so I'm not springing it. So actually, I'm not going to apologise. But what one quote do you strive to live by that inspires you or motivates you daily?
I have a motto, apart from my rising tide lifts all boats, because I'm very much a person of working together, we all win. But I guess that stems from what I go by as well. The one I'm going to tell you, which is my original one, which is the more people you help to achieve their dream, the more you achieve your dream.
It's kind of the same. It's got the same message a little bit, hasn't it?
Yeah. So that's what I originated from, and then the rising tide lifts all boats kind of becomes that. So I'm all about helping people, achieve what they want to achieve, and in the process, I mean, I guess it stems right from the core of my 5-star hospitality training, that if you make people happy, you feel happy. So you because you know yourself, if you make people feel good, or you make people enjoy an experience, then you feel good. I mean, how happy do we feel when we take people out on our boat, or I take somebody out on one of our freedom boats, and you go up on the plane the first time, and they've never done that on a boat, and you're up on the plane, and this grin that comes on their face is just it's they can't help it. It's like it's a yay, and so all we're doing in the boating industry, and I think this is a really important part that a lot of people in the boating industry need to remember, is that we as an industry make people happy. So it's actually a really important industry. The blue mind effect that we have being out on boats, that smile when we get up on the plane, or that smile when the sails are out and it's just the wind and you're just enjoying that freedom, whatever form of, or you catch that fish, whatever form of boating that people are doing, it's making them feel good and it's making them feel happy. So as an industry, that's what we do.
I love that. Do you know what I mean? That is it. The marine industry, we make people happy. That should be the strapline for the whole industry. Whether you're in it, experiencing it, whatever, we just make you happy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And what a happy way to finish the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on and being a guest. I've absolutely loved our conversation. I can't wait to catch up with you again after Miami. And let's just keep in touch.
Absolutely, Holly. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. You are an absolute champion, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Nikki. I'll speak to you soon.
Take care.
I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, then it would be awesome if you could leave a rating or a review. Don't forget to subscribe so you can listen to us again. See you soon.